Hello and welcome to Current Wave. I'm your host, Ayla Wayman, and in this podcast, we meander through our shared delusions and stumble into ethereal shit talking as we dive into the waves of the human experience. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome to Current Wave. We are going to dive into some astro weather for the summer with my dear friend Amanda of Barney and Flo. All of her information is going to be linked below. But this was an awesome conversation. It was really fun to go into the transits that we're going to be experiencing for the next few months, because there's a lot happening. And as Amanda speaks to and shares with us, this is a big time. Like the next year, year or so, year and a half, 2 years until 2027 is perhaps like one of the biggest moments astrologically of our lifetimes, because a lot of the slower moving planets, the outer planets, are all moving at the same time into new signs, into new placements, beginning new transits. And so it's really potent. And I think that we really can feel that in the collective with all of the different things that are moving and happening. And there's a lot coming up. And I think that in the best case scenario, which I am really holding as where we're moving, this is a good thing. Like, we have to purge, we have to rebuild these systems. We have a very clear view that the systems and structures that have been in place for the last few hundred years are really not in service to all of us. They are kind of like this top down model. They are not of the people, for the people, by the people. And I think that we are moving into a time that there is so much beauty and potential at our fingertips. And what keeps coming to me as we move into this new era, into this new season, and not like season as in summer, but season as in like this new season of humanity, it's going to require something really new of us. And I think that there's a lot that is intimidating right now, because in order to create a new system, we have to dismantle the whole old system. We can't like leave things in place and build something new within them, right? Like, a lot of people use the police as an example. Like, there's no way of creating a new police force within that structure that is modeled on things that we no longer want to see. We have to dismantle things and break them down and build from the ground up. And so we're in the really uncomfortable part of the dismantling. And I think that it's scary to see systems dismantled and to see systems of good dismantled alongside systems that we don't want to see, right? I think that, like, one example of this is taking funding from public schools for local food, right? Like, that's something that feels insane to dismantle. Like, that is benefiting the children at school to get local organic foods, that supports farmers and being able to grow and scale and supply food to these schools. And my view of this is that it all has to go in order to rebuild. And we get to rebuild in a way that really serves humanity, really serves our fellow humans, really brings something new to the table. And what it's going to require is our participation. It's going to require us to step in. And I think that we want government structures, we want these systems to provide infrastructure, to provide support, to provide templates. And maybe that's not where we're going. Maybe where we're going is more of a village model of, okay, what do you want to see in your school, in your community, in your world? And we're going to have to create that. It's not going to be about the government holding our hand through things. And there's a heartbreak in that, there's difficulty in that. And yet, I think if we can come at it from a certain angle, this is the most empowering, exciting moment to be alive because you get to create what is right for you and your community and your people and your world. And that is actually how revolutions are started. It started from like one person having a clear vision and gathering their community, creating with community. And it's intimidating because it requires a lot from us. But this really is this Saturn and Neptune in Aries energy that we're going to get into and speak more to, of taking responsibility, taking action, moving forward as a trailblazer with fire and gumption and energy and clarity and discernment. And it's a beautiful opportunity. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm saying that there's something really potent here and happening, and it requires a lot from us. So, we really talk more about resourcing in this episode. We really talk about what these next steps are. How do you step into the fold? How do you be here, be present in creating the new earth, which we hear a lot about. But it's like the new earth is just, what do you want to see happening on this planet? What is important to you? Where is your heart? Where is your energy? Where is your role as a human on earth? Like, it requires us to step into our purpose, our power, our vision, our creation. This is one of the reasons why I am cultivating and doing vision work, because it's so important right now as a human to have a clear vision of like what your work in this world is, and to be able to step into that with support, with tools, with resources, with your whole self. Okay. So my message to you is, if you're feeling excited, that's amazing, and move with that excitement, move with that energy. And if you're feeling stuck or scared or terrified, I encourage you to look around your immediate space, because when I do that, I see incredible, amazing people creating beautiful things in every corner of the world. And I don't think that that is just my view. I think if you look around, if you talk to people, they are motivated, they are excited, they are using and channeling their anger or confusion or disagreement with some of the things that are happening into worthy causes in their community, in their space, or even globally. Like, it's a time to be woken up, to be shaken up. Like, this requires your participation, and it requires an opening to things that, maybe haven't been at the forefront of your thought, opening to new ways of looking at things, opening to alternative solutions or ways of doing things or looking at the world, because it feels like different things are all converging at the same time, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I just encourage you to open your mind, open your heart, and move with your own truth and your own discernment of what feels real for you, what feels aligned for you, and then take action. If your vision has to do with like planting a garden and feeding your neighbors, like, that is potent, important work. If your action is being a mother and raising compassionate, beautiful children in this world, like, that is so needed. If you have a business, if you want to be a baker or a psychic or build a tech company, like, yes, that is for you. We need integrated, grounded, heart, mind, hands people building right now. So, with all of that, we dive into the summer season and just the transits that we're going to be moving through, how to use that energy, how to be aware of that energy, how to bring it in to your sphere and move with it, create with it, be aware of it as things are happening. And there's some really beautiful transits that are really supportive, that feel like maybe an exhale, that feel a little bit better than some of the things that we've been moving through for the first half of this year. So I hope that you take some nuggets. I hope that you maybe have some aha moments or feel excited about this time we're living in. Thank you so much for being here. If you feel resonant with this podcast, if you like it, if you want to share it with a friend, I deeply appreciate that. That's the only really the best way for us to grow and share this message and have some of these conversations that I am excited to share. And I am really grateful for you listening and tuning in. There's so many options, and it is really noted when you're here. So thank you and enjoy the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Current Wave. I'm here with my friend Amanda. Very excited to have her on. We're going to do a little summer astro forecast and just talk about some transits and planets and things that are happening over the next few months. And yeah, hi, Amanda. Welcome. Thank you for being
Hi.
here.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty sure I was stretching my face out right when you hit record, so be sure to edit that one out. I can't tell you how many like blooper videos I have of me like stretching my face or stretching my jaw before I start talking. But yes, thank you for having me.
I'm like, wait, I want to stretch my face
I
now.
know it's so nice to. I think it's from like years of acting. I would like stretch out my mouth and like stretch out my jaw. But yeah, I think I was doing that right when we started. So
Perfect.
I'm happy to be back.
Yes. So Amanda and I had a conversation last summer in the fall. I guess this launched in Libra season. So sometime in that space, but I was in Austin, which everything feels like summer there all the time. So it
Mhm.
was still warm, and we went into a lot about your background and your story and astrology and different things at large. So if you want the background of how we met and sort of more about Amanda, definitely check out that episode. I will link it in the show notes. But today we're really just going to focus on the weather, the astro weather, and what's going on in the cosmos. I was thinking about this morning, how it feels really interesting and also really fun that the zeitgeist just has astrology and human design and gene keys really, and kind of all of those wisdom systems coming online in a bigger and bigger way. Like if you Google something about astrology, like Marie Claire and like these funny places, often are a resource that comes up. So it is something that people are really interested in. And I think there's also a little bit of an evolution in that space of people understanding that like their sun sign is just such a little piece of the pie, and transits are becoming much more in the zeitgeist, I think, because of like people like Chani and other online astrologers that are really like, okay, this is what's happening right now and this is how it affects you. So I'm excited to continue in that vein and add to the conversation and the story with you.
Yeah, there's like, I mean, a lot of astrologers will say this is like the biggest year of our lives, like this year and next year, as far as like everything that's happening. So it's a really good time to be talking about transits. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, is that because like some of the outer planets are making a shift that only happens like every, like in longer time spans? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, like big planets like Pluto will stay for like over a decade in a sign, you know? But it's the fact that they're all moving at once. Like
Mhm.
it's a big deal for each of them to change signs, right? Especially Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. But to have all three of them change signs like within a year, basically, because we had Pluto move last year and finally like
Yeah.
settle this year. And then we had Neptune already move, and we're about to have Uranus move, and Saturn is like also, you know, he moves faster, but he's still an outer planet that has like influence.
Yeah.
And they're all moving from like earth water energy to air fire energy. So it's like a massive elemental shift. And then Saturn and Neptune moved over 0 point of the zodiac. So it's like they're not just moving signs,
Right.
they moved from an end to a beginning. Yeah, to start like a whole new cycle around of like a whole new era of those energies. So
Mm.
it's pretty crazy in a good way, in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really, it feels crazy. Like, I think that collectively we're feeling huge shifts and huge transitions. And no matter like where you stand or what your point of view of is of the world, it's happening. Like, there's a lot of upheaval, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of shifting. And so it really is nice to lean into these systems that exist for us to kind of see this map of what's happening on Earth through the cosmos and that interconnected play and experience. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to kind of get into it. Um, and I really want also you to jump in and like direct this as you see fit because I am not immersed in the transits and all of this. So just add your expertise and insight anywhere. But I'm curious about just like a little overview of the summer, or if you want to kind of start in on anything that feels important right now and like where we are and perhaps where we're going, and then
Mhm.
kind of dive into certain transits that you feel like we want to go a little into.
Yes, I have a list
Okay,
with all my dates,
perfect.
so I don't forget. Because there's, I think, well, I will say this for overarching themes before we get into just like actual transits. This,
Yes.
the beginning of this year was very like muddled energy. You know, we were having a lot of endings. We were having a lot of like Neptune and Saturn finishing up their time in Pisces. Mars was retrograde for a long time, which is kind of our planet of like, let's get going and move forward. We just had like a lot of kind of feeling stuck. You know, it's like the calendar new year started and it really didn't feel that new. And then even when the spring equinox came around, we were still a little bit like, I'm ready, but it doesn't really feel like anything's really moving forward as much or as fast as
Yeah.
I would like. And summer is like my favorite time of this year for sure. It starts to feel like the momentum is picking up and we're like gathering some speed. I mean, the reality is like we're in preview season, which is what happened with Pluto, right? Like all the outer planets, they have major retrogrades every year. So even if they cross into a new sign, like Pluto did um, prior from Capricorn to Aquarius, then he backed back into Capricorn like right before the election. And we were all kind of like, what's that going to mean? Because when
Right.
it retrogrades back, you're like, we're kind of retracing the steps and tying up the loose ends that we haven't already. So we're going to do that with all of these planets, right? Saturn and Neptune have moved, but they're going to back into Pisces and we're going to finish up stuff. And Uranus is going to move from Taurus into Gemini, but then it's going to back into Taurus this year and we're going to finish up stuff. So we're kind of in preview season.
Yeah.
We're getting like a taste of what is coming for a longer haul. And also like Jupiter, like our planet that kind of brings the blessings and ease. You know, both of our planets that bring the blessing and ease are like Venus and Jupiter and in traditional astrology. Jupiter's been in Gemini for a really long time in a place he doesn't really like to be. Like So he's been kind of contained in his blessing energy and like not as resourced as he is now. And now he's moved into Cancer, his sign of exaltation, which we can talk about when we get into like more of the transit stuff. And that is like a way big breath of fresh air, you know, from like, it's kind of like everything's starting to finally move, and summer feels like when we're actually going to gain some momentum and maybe feel a little bit more ease. Now, that being said, we're still going through like a collective tower crumble moment, and that's just part of the what we're living as we move into 2027. So it's not going to be, I mean, it depends on, I guess, what you're tuned into, which is part of what I would say is the big theme of Saturn and Neptune is like, um, where are you oriented?
Right. That's really helpful. Yeah, I'm excited to like I'm just in it. I'm already like thinking of these planets and their different energies, and I forget that Jupiter is not in his happiest place in Gemini, and I think that that will be such an exhale. And I also have three planets in my 11th house. So I've had, which is in Gemini. So I have had that transit going back and forth over those planets for the past 2 years, and like was really excited and hopeful about that Jupiter energy. And that can be like such a big time for someone having Jupiter go over like their Venus and their sun and all of those things. And it didn't feel like that full expansion that I was hoping for, probably because of that sticky relationship. So I'm excited for all of us to kind of have that exhale and that exaltation of Cancer. And we'll get into that. And yeah, I think it sounds like there's just so much movement, so much change, so much to integrate and be with. And so let's go into it a little deeper. Is there a
Yeah,
place that you want to start, or like what
I
feels
think Saturn and Neptune are like the best places to start because they're in Aries, you know, and Aries is the beginning and Aries is origin point and Aries is like who am I, which is like a lot of what we're discovering right now. You know, it's a redefinition of identity. It's we're really like shedding the performativeness and like trying to tap into what's like primally true. And, you know, Saturn or Aries is like, I am this, whatever this XYZ is. And Neptune is kind of in there going, are you? Like, are you still like who is the you of your future? You know, Neptune's like kind of dissolving illusions and like the identities that we've inherited or the identities that we've taken on through societal conditioning or familial conditioning or whatever the epigenetics is, the piece, you know. And Saturn is like asking us to clarify and commit to like a structure that holds. And it is an interesting energy, you know, like we talked about, Jupiter doesn't love to be in Gemini. Saturn doesn't love to be in Aries because Saturn is like, let's go slow and steady. Like Saturn is the hare, you know, in this analogy. And he's like, let's build the systems and structures that are going to be sustainable. And Aries is like, let's go. Like, I just want to like leap and figure it out later. So there's a little bit of, you know, a stutter step happening with that we have to be mindful of. And like, there may be some frustration energy with that, whereas you want to like get up and go, but Saturn's a little bit like slow your roll and like figure out how you're gonna create this in a sustainable way. But there's a lot of like authenticity energy, which I think is a word that like gets really diluted now because it's been so used, but it is the truth of what this is. You know, it's like the deep energetic edits, the deep individuation, the like composting of old selves and old identities and old masks and composing like who you want to be in the future self. And, you know, I just did a podcast last week or the week before that was like the power of I am statements. Like that's a lot with this, what I think people should be thinking about with this transit. Like I am statements are so powerful. You know, if you say, I feel depression, that's completely different than saying I am depressed. Like we really want to think about what words we're putting behind the I am statement, because we really are crafting a desired future self, hopefully, like something different than something leveled up from where we are now. And we want to be mindful of like what we're identifying with right now as an individual and collectively, like I also talked recently about like we have like two very different worlds existing right now. Like there are people who are very excited about what's coming and people who think we're doomed for destruction, And regardless of your politics or whatever you think, the question I posed is what's better for you right now, to believe that we're moving to the most abundant time we've ever known and like crafting an identity and a vision for the world that looks like that, or to be like we're all screwed and everything's dark and dismal, and like living and marinating in that energy. Like even if you take out like what kind of energy you're broadcasting for the collective and how that's shaping all of our reality, like what's actually better for your personal health and wealth and ease in your life, as far as like what you're identifying with and orienting yourself to.
Hmm. Yeah, potent and really important. Like, I really feel that emphasis you're putting on identity and how we're seeing ourselves in this collective moment and our relationship to that. And it's such a good reminder to be aware, to be mindful, to be critical, and to sort of use those two energies in Aries to really look at those places of the self. And I actually did write a little bit about Saturn moving into Aries because I just had some feelings about it and yeah, it felt like an opportunity, even though there is that stutter step of kind of that go, 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 move forward, launch, go in the world of Aries. But having Saturn there, and if we can navigate those two energies and sort of be fluid in that stutter step, it feels like the perfect time to build something real and true and
Mm-hmm.
like very alive, and use that energy and sort of frustration of Aries to build a solid system and foundation with Saturn. Like, I felt that there was this really secret, deeper current of their relationship and of their potential together, even though they're at odds. It felt very of this moment of being in a moment that feels like it's at odds, because it is like this growth thing. And how can we bring all of ourselves, bring our truth, bring our authenticity, and build a really solid foundation, but do it in a really alive, energized Aries way?
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think when we like slow down a little bit and do it with attention and intention, it's much easier to like build something new and make sure, because like we want to keep checking in with like what are we oriented towards and what is the vision of the future that we want to create for ourselves and the collective, and like how can we keep moving in that direction. And when we're moving too fast and we're kind of just popping off, like it's much easier to kind of just default back into old identities or old habits or old selves that like don't really serve us for the desired future.
Totally. And then Neptune's role. Neptune often feels a little elusive to me. And I think that's part of that energy of like, what is this? Um,
Mhm.
like, what do you have anything else to add about Neptune and Aries? And I think you said like like the dissolving of those old identities, but is there anything else that we can
Yeah,
think of?
I think too, just like being mindful of what is trying to dissolve and that you're not defaulting back, that you're allowing for things to compost and that you are letting go. Sometimes we're just like, we just don't know how to just let go. Like I saw this post recently that really rang true, and I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was like um, something like, a healthy flex is like allowing for people to be wrong about you, you know? And that was something that I always struggled with. Like if there was a misunderstanding, or like I felt like somebody didn't have like like they were misinterpreting the situation or whatever, like you kind of keep going back trying to like fix it or like make it right and make it make sense. And sometimes we just have to like just let go of things. And there are going to be things, especially as we're like reinventing ourselves and the world, because we really are creating a new earth, that just need to fall away. And it's like being okay with that, like being okay with just like unclenching and letting things go and compost. And also, I think, you know, Neptune, like Aries is like this very kind of concise, clear energy, and Saturn is like, let's build the clear, concise energy. And Neptune's kind of like, you know, a little like, you know, so there can be some like kind of feeling lost or kind of unmoored in your sense of self. And so, like, taking time to really sit with, you know, a lot of people right now, one of the things that I hear kind of consistently in my business with clients is that people feel lost. People feel like they're straddling two timelines, like they're kind of letting all of this stuff go and they're not quite sure like where they're going from there. You know, it's like things are pulling away, or like people who work in the entertainment industry are like, is there even going to be an entertainment industry after this? Like, what is it going to look like, you know? Or relationships that feel stale, or jobs and career paths that feel stale, but people are kind of like, but I feel too old to start over. It's never too, you're never too old to start over. And I think one of the things that's going to be birthed in this new time is people really being able to focus more on like what lights you up and what gets you excited. So some of it is going to be like allowing for those things to go and being willing to stand with your feet in two places and wait for the thing to like show you where to go next, rather than like trying to force something to happen. Like, don't kind of like confuse ego with identity, or like your essence, or like default back into those old things. Or you know, we are still in this really big time where there is a lot of negativity out there, and make sure that you're really creating good energetic boundaries. And just like, I think it's perfectly fine not to drag people along with you at this point. Like, if they want to come, let them come. And if they don't, that may be something you just need to let fall away right now. Because like trying to hold a frequency is like a higher version of trying to hold space, you know? And like holding a frequency is really hard to like visualize this new world all the time and like be excited and move into it while there's all this noise over here. So it's also like, when do you need to disconnect from things? Like, I take breaks from social media and breaks from the news. And like, if it's affecting me and I can't watch it as like the movie playing out, then I'm like, okay, I need to disconnect. So things like that, I would say, are really important.
Yeah.
And just like slowing down when you need to, and like coming back to your core center and tuning into like your kind of gut truths about things.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I feel like you painted a really good picture of that energy for me. And what was really coming to me was like, with all of the confusion or the different timelines, the different stories, these different point of views, and really coming into that Aries energy, which is very forward, like is very grounded in its own way. It's sort of like a fiery, grounded nature, but there's something so solid about Aries energy with that, like, I am is sort of like that quintessential Aries statement of like, how do you let all of the things fall? How do you be in even just your own frequency of your truth? Allow the relationships to change, allow the jobs to change, allow this movie, as you said, to kind of play out, and really learn to stay grounded, to stay centered in whatever is true for you, even if you don't see that evidence yet, or even if it feels muddled and feels confusing and you're not getting that clear view. Really just cultivating that for yourself and having that strength and courage, which I also think are Aries qualities, of just like staying on the path, staying the course, taking the steps before the picture is clear. it's a really courageous energy, actually, and to do it from a truly grounded, authentic place. And I think that that's the invitation I was really hearing in what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from equanimity, like not letting anything really kind of pull you from from your center and from your core, like you said.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, where should we go next? What feels like another area we want to touch into?
I mean, we can talk. There's been like a lot of conversation about Pluto and Aquarius, but we can touch on it because it is so huge. Pluto is now kind of settled into Aquarius for a long haul, and I think until 2044.
What,
Yeah,
like
2044.
19 years?
Yeah, so a long time. Um, and so, there's this recalibration around collective systems and rewiring our relationship to community and tech and wealth and secrets and power. And I think this will be a lot of like our collective unraveling to rebuild something different. It's kind of like we're all in the shadow work together, but there's also like a big reclamation of power to the people, not to the systems. I think, both with Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, there's like a lot of AI and innovation and social movements. Here, there's like decentralization. So I think like a quick summary of that one is like to be mindful of over identifying with groupthink or online personas, to be mindful, like with all this earth water shift to air fire, like, I beat the nervous system drum all the time for a reason because I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's so important. And we want to be mindful of the burnout and the disembodiment that can happen with all the air energy. Like, how are we kind of constantly grounding ourselves and staying in our bodies and not like moving progress forward at the cost of like being present in ourselves and grounded. And it's also a big, almost that's also the big thing about all of these shifts, right? Especially with the Saturn, Neptune into Aries and Pluto into Aquarius. Like, it's so much about individuation. It's so much about like the incarnation cross that we're moving into in 2027. There is like a collective village energy to it, but it's like from the individuated place, not from group consciousness, which is what we need to be mindful of with Pluto and Aquarius, and making sure that we're not doing that. Or, I use AI now, and when all that stuff first started popping up, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. It's like when I was a photographer, I was like, I will be in the dark room. I will not use a digital camera. I get into those like purist places. And now like I use my chat GPT to help with like summarizing things or like help with inspiration or help doing things that I don't want to do. But I never let it like take over my identity. It's a tool, not like, don't create your whole business through, you can see it when you're reading people's posts and it's just like straight up written by chat GPT or they're reading a script. Like, make sure that you're holding on to yourself. And these things are tools that are separate from you, So those are like some of the main themes I would say with Pluto.
Yeah. Yeah, really important things. And like, I think that holding these as we create this new earth, this new version of what this is on this planet, right? Like, really cultivating our humanness and ourselves and really keeping that connection to our soul, which is something that is still such a mystery, and keeping the mysteries of whatever this is alive as we embrace tech, as we integrate it, and really finding, like, I'm also extremely optimistic. Ultimately, I think there's some bumpy stuff on the path, but I think there is a version that we're moving toward that is really more of this heaven on earth energy that is a vision that I think a lot of us have been moving toward for a really long time and held in lots of cultures for a really long time, and is part of like the prophecies that we're coming up to in 2027 of this being an option. And I think that part of creating that option is staying really conscious, staying really curious. As you're saying, like, yes, moving into this more communal Aquarian state that's really thinking about the collective, but as you said, thinking about it from like the lens of being a really integrated, grounded individual, thinking for yourself, looking at the different options and being like, okay, this, I'm not just going to jump into this because everyone else is. Like, what's true for me and how
Mm-hmm.
can I bring my truth to this collective creation process? And I think that really does bring that balance between the self and other and gives us a better opportunity than everyone just like diving into the soup without any critical thinking or like losing the self, even as you were saying, like using ChatGPT. I use it too, and I'm like training it to do things. Like when I first started, I was like, this thing is terrible at anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then it learns,
Mm-hmm.
which is the entire point and process. And now I'm like, okay, you're a lot better. And sometimes I have the way that my brain and soul work is very, all of us. It's like very us. And I'm so glad when I try to like put an idea in and have it help me and it can't figure it out. I'm like, okay, that's actually great. Like, you're good for these things. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to still hold on to this part of me that is just me and you don't understand and you can't write for me. And that balance, it's all balance.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I named mine Pete and I don't know why, but Pete is great. Pete's the bee's knees. I tell them all the time. But I'm very specific about what I use it for, and I never let it take my own creativity and my own voice. And I also think it's like the flip side of that is the people who are very afraid of it and like think it's going to like take all the jobs and we're going to be in an iRobot situation or whatever. And I don't believe that. I mean, I do think it's going to take a lot of jobs, but I think it's going to do that because it's going to free people up to do things that they actually enjoy doing. Like a lot of the kind of jobs that nobody wants to do really anyway, deep down in their core. But I do think we're becoming a more compassionate people and a more connected to our soul people. And like whatever we birth out of that will be a reflection of that. So I think it will be a reflection of that. Like it will be for good, not for, and like we don't want to move through like being afraid of where we're going with that either. But we also want to use common sense and be discerning.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that is sort of a big umbrella that all of this is functioning under. So I'm glad we touched on that. And yeah, okay. Moving on. Who's next?
Well, I wanted to touch on Venus and Taurus, and she's not there for very much longer. But anytime a benefic planet, which are benefic planets, like I said, are Venus and Jupiter, are in like their most resourced places, it's like nice to acknowledge it. Venus is in Taurus until July 4th, so like milk it right now. I don't know when this is going to come out, but Venus
Hopefully
is dignified.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it fast.
If it's still happening, Venus is really dignified in Taurus, and like it's a lot about pleasure and presence and embodiment as medicine, and remembering that luxury and love and ease are like not something that we have to earn, but like our birthright, which is really what kind of where we're going in this new paradigm, like out of the hustle culture and into like a really kind of embodied place where we're really more connected to the things that we love and more in our sensorial bodies and more in the slow soft work rather than like the hustle vibes. So this might be a time to like tap into that a little bit and like get into your senses, go buy yourself some flowers, go eat really good food, recalibrate your trust around your financial self and like grow your capacity for abundance. Amplifying enoughness, like those kinds of things. And then we have a fun, like right before Uranus moves into Gemini, there's going to be a Venus Uranus conjunction. So this is kind of a little flashpoint around July 3rd of surprise around love. And you might tune in around that time to see if like there are any breakthroughs or insights around love or money or values, or there might be some sudden changes that like feel destabilizing at first, but like ultimately are for your highest good. You know, a lot of times the things that like feel funky at first like turn out to be like some of the best things. Like I got fired from a job once and I was like, what the, I don't get fired. But then I had bet like I needed to leave that job for a year. It was actually like an abusive situation, and like leaving that job led me to the most amazing job and like the most amazing group of friends. So sometimes like the things that feel destabilizing at first are like actually what land us in a much better place. But there might be some like surprises around relationships or money. So you want to ground through your senses and make space for updating your desires, because you might find, like I just went through a Venus Uranus transit in my own chart, and it like recalibrated some things, like what I thought, like my wardrobe shifted because all of a sudden I was like, I don't like any of these things. Like some things changed. Like I stopped wearing so many hats again because I went through a hat phase where I was always, I mean, it's just like, it's funny to watch like how these things shift when we're hit with these planets. So, and also just like a whole time of remembering to let like pleasure be a part of your everyday and not something that you like reward yourself with or have to earn.
Yeah, so beautiful. I think we always need that Venus energy, and it's beautiful that she's in a dignified and helpful placement of like being herself, is what it feels like in Taurus. Like
Mm-hmm.
really having that energy flow really naturally and amplify and just be true to itself. And yeah, I think like this is something that I have to work on because I get super tunnel vision. And I think you do too. Like we have sort of some of that, just like sit and work and do the thing and like complete it, and a little bit of like parameters on that. And the easiest way for me to tap into this energy, and I think this is helpful for anyone, especially if you are not necessarily seeing those pleasure pockets in your life, is I just like shift the perspective of how I do the thing. Like, okay, I need to sit at my computer all day and work. What's the most beautiful place I could do that in my home? Like, what are, the most nourishing foods that are even just in your fridge? Like, what's the thing that feels the best in that moment? Even if you are in a moment of constriction and things don't necessarily feel easeful or good, just like, how can I sit in the most comfortable, cozy, beautiful way? And just in imbuing that energy in every single action has really shifted things, because it's like the way you do something can completely transform your whole life and your whole experience. And just remembering that it can be really small. It doesn't, like, luxury to me is like how we breathe, like the energy that we bring to something. And then you start to do that, and everything starts to change of how you show up. And like the coding you essentially put on your energetic field can be very soft, can be very supple, can be very loving, can be very easeful, even if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing something really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Working soft is like something that I'm always working on with my open route, especially in human design. Like it's just, it's hard for me to like, sometimes I will sit down and be like, I will set a timer and I will get up and move my body in an hour. And then 2 hours go by and I need to pee and I need to drink water. And I'm still sitting there going, oh my God, like honor your body and your body's needs. But it's easy to get into like a zone. And so I literally have to set a timer and stop myself and move my body and like get up from the thing. And, um, but yes, I love like sitting in beautiful places. I think we both have like a love of beverages. I always have like, I've got 2 beverages just sitting here doing this interview. Like, I need to, like, that's one way that I feel really nourished. I spend a ridiculous amount of money on beverages because I just like that feels really luxurious to me, you know? So it is things like that that you can bring in, and figuring out how you can be soft in your body while you're also like be in your feminine. And there's this woman who talks about working like a woman, Megan Mahalani, and I had her on my podcast a couple times, and she would be like, sometimes I don't wear underwear when I'm sitting because it's just like I'm not constricted by anything, and I'm kind of like relaxed in my body, and like I have the outer task that I'm working on, but I also have like an inner task I'm working on of like relaxing my jaw and relaxing my shoulders from my neck and deep breathing or whatever it is. Like being, that's going to be like so important with all the air energy floating around, is like, how do you stay in your body, like really in your body, while you're also on this screen? Like, can we like figure out the dynamic there where it's not like one or the other? Like I mean, I do think it's important to like work in blocks and take breaks and roll around and stretch your body and, you know, go play frisbee with the dog or whatever and like take a moment. But I also think it's like, how do I sit here with you and like not have all my energy be up here? Like, how do I drop
Yeah.
it down and like really be in my body? Can you hear my dog? He's dreaming.
So cute. I can hear him, but perfect. We have a little dreamer. Yeah.
Okay, well, the next one I would say is Jupiter in Cancer, which is my favorite transit of the year. And it's like for a whole year. Like it started in June, and it's going to continue until June of 2026. And I kind of coined this transit nourished expansion because that's what it feels like. Like this is Jupiter's happiest placement. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. But it's also like kind of what we were just talking about working soft. Like it's expansion through safety and resourcing, not hustle or speed, which is a lot of what we kind of keep coming back to. Like Jupiter is how you tap into the blessings and the ease and the abundance. And
Yep.
Jupiter is saying, you do this from a space of safety in your body. You do this from a place of like home and grounding. And I just did a post the other day that was like, emotional hygiene is one of the most important things you can be doing, because while we love Jupiter for all the expansive blessings he brings, he also brings expansion to whatever he touches. And Cancer is very emotional vibes. So emotional hygiene this year should be like brushing your teeth. Like you brush your teeth every day, twice a day, and you also figure out a way to clear out the emotional gunk, whether that's like practices in the moment where you feel frustrated and you go do, you know, a practice to clear healthy aggression, or whether it's like you commit to doing breath of fire for this year and like moving some stuck old anger and resentment and frustration from your body. It needs to be like super prioritized. And I think we will tap into much more expansion when we tend to that static, you know, and like clear it out. Because all of that gets in the not self area where we can't totally follow our strategy and our authority in human design, or we can't totally hear, you know, our intuition clearly because it's kind of like mucking up all the works. And then again, over here with my nervous system drum, like we want to create the safety in the body so that we can expand from that place, so that we feel safe to expand, and also so that we have the capacity to hold what we're calling in. Yeah, it's a big one. I'm like super excited, and everybody can, for this one especially, since it's going to last a year. I mean, we could say this about all the transits that we talked about, like where is your Aries house for Saturn and Neptune? But this one especially, like what is your Cancer house, and like where are you getting a little boost of good vibes? Asteroid Fortuna is also moving through Cancer until the end of July, so there's just like extra Cancer resourcing happening, like bringing the blessings to that. And then she'll move into Leo like till October, so like those two houses are getting like a little boost. Yeah, it's like really a breath of fresh air after Jupiter's long haul in Gemini. It will feel very different, I think, and also like give some hot girl summer vibes, you know, just like some ease and some like flow to things, which I think will feel really nice after the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that feels really, really good and exciting. And like, yeah, what would be some like Cancer themes? You touched on it, but what are some of like those parts of Cancer that we can tune into for ourselves, or areas to look at? Yes, like finding where Cancer falls on your chart, what house it rules, and all of that. But like, what are just some general themes that we could kind of like tune into, or maybe tend to with this Jupiter energy?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the emotional hygiene piece is the biggest piece I can say for sure. And then I would also say um, like Cancer is very much an energy that wants to feel safe and secure. So it really is like, I call our nervous system our anatomical system for health and wealth, and I really believe that. I think most chronic issues in the body, whether it's disease or pain, is actually rooted in nervous system dysregulation. And I think when people are kind of in those cycles where they're in cycles of scarcity, or you just feel stuck and you're like, why aren't things moving forward? It's actually because the nervous system is spending too much time in dysregulated states, and it's not enough time in ventral vagal where we're kind of in that rest, digest, heal the body, be social with people, and also manifest. Like we manifest from ventral vagal, not from a parasympathetic fight flight state, not from a shutdown freeze state. We can't manifest from those places with ease. So when we're talking about like really bringing blessings in, we really want to do it from the place of like, I feel safe to do that. And I feel safe to hold that. Like some people will be like trying to manifest more clients or trying to manifest more followers, but like you don't actually feel safe to call that in. You don't actually feel like you could even hold that, And really for our nervous system, we can't tell our nervous system you're safe. It doesn't speak English. It speaks somatically. So we have to like show our nervous system that we're safe. And some of the ways that we do that are practices like bottoms up practices that really like create a safety in the body or tone the vagal nerve. But it's also clearing trapped emotions, because we just hold so many trapped emotions that then our nervous system is like, oh, we don't feel safe to feel these things. So I'll give you a migraine, or I'll give you acne, or I'll give you bad periods, or I'll give you back pain, or whatever it is, because the nervous system is like fritzing and it doesn't want you to feel those feelings because you've deemed them not safe to feel. So that really is like one of the most important things we can be doing is like, and also like we are trying to move into this time, right, of like holding exponential abundance, like more than we can even like comprehend right now. But we need to grow our capacity. Like sometimes with the nervous system, it's like we'll manifest something. Like it's like we're trying to call in a certain amount of money and then we'll manifest it. And then our car will break down because we can't hold it. Like our nervous system's like, whoa, that's a lot. And like, you're kind of freaking me out. And I don't know what to do with that, because I would rather stay in my unsafe discomfort than in my safe discomfort than in the lack of safety of the unknown. Like the nervous system just really doesn't like anything unknown. So if we're not calibrating our nervous system to be able to consistently hold more and more and like continue to up level, we keep hitting these like glass ceilings in both our health journey and our wealth journey, like our prosperity in all areas of our life journey. So those two things are the biggest things I would say, because I think it's going to be hard to tap into all the blessings without. And then, Cancer is a lot like it's bringing blessings to family and parenting and mothering. And like Cancer is a very fertile sign. That's why Jupiter is so happy here. It's like fertility. Fertility is fertility, like birthing a human. And it's also creating a world and creating a business and creating a project. So all of that kind of co-creation energy is getting a boost, but we need it from the place of safety. Home is getting a boost. Family, ancestry is getting a boost. Land, like, buying land or like tending land or stewarding land, all of those kinds of things are very Cancerian. The ways that we feel deeply and profoundly nourished, like what is that? Sometimes people will say to me, I don't know what I'm doing right now, or I don't actually know what my vision is. Like, I don't know what I want. And I'm always like, let's go back to how do you want to feel? Like, what feels deeply nourishing for you? And even if you don't know what the job is that you want to do, what does your ideal day look like? Is it a slow morning? Is it like having the freedom to go play fetch with your dog in the middle of the day and like set your own schedule? Or is it like being part of a team and like you really thrive like being in that kind of thing? So we can always figure out, like, even if we don't have all the answers, we can figure out some answers of like what we want to orient ourselves towards. And then we can create the safety in the body and clear out the emotions. For people who don't do the emotional hygiene, it's not going to feel as like, it is bringing ease, But if you're drowning in your emotional body, then it's not going to be that easy to tap into that, into the blessings. So
Mm.
mm, those are like the main things I would say.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you for just like honing in on that, double clicking on some of that, because it takes like, I really want people to hear ways that they can really tap in and really receive. Like what I was really hearing ultimately
Mm-hmm.
is like, how do we tap into receiving mode? Like that's what this sounds like and feels like to me,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much of that outward energy of like create, do, make the connections, build the business. And like we have plenty of that going on societally. And also, like, I think with those Aries placements or those Aries transits, it brings that energy of like do, go, create. Yes, like there's actions to be taken to create the lives and the visions that we have. And how do we open our receiving channels? And it really sounds like that nervous system work, clearing the emotions, opening the emotional body, leaning into that softness, being in that rest and digest state, because, right, that is where we receive those blessings. How do we become sort of that little lit up beacon ready to receive? And then, as you really aptly said, hold, right? Like I've had so many moments and situations where I have a big thing that comes in, and then right away, some part of me, it's like not safe. And it's something I really want. It's something we're calling in. It's really not from the conscious mind, because, of course,
Mm-hmm.
when we receive money or opportunities or blessings or new relationships, we're always like, oh, yes, this is what I'm calling in. But it is that subtle system that rules all ultimately, like that combination of the subconscious and the nervous system that's saying, oh, this is new. We're not used to this. We're used to being in poverty. We're used to being like XYZ. And it will just really create wild scenarios in the world. And not to like say that there's not things that happen that feel very out of our control and random. Who knows what that relationship is? But I've consistently in the past, I think it's really shifting, had that experience of like, okay, I get something comes in and like the exact amount has to go out instantly. And you're like, okay, something fishy
Mm-hmm.
is going on here. There's deeper work to be done to feel safe receiving and then holding, having that capacity to like stay with the pose through change. So
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
there's like soft work to be done, it sounds like.
Yes. And that's a great reflection because it's a great balance to like air and fire are both masculine energies. They're both yang, they're both action oriented, they're linear, they're like, let's go do the thing. They're like, I'm here for the accomplishment, like where are we going and what's the goal and how are we getting there? And that's where everything's moving, right? Saturn and Neptune are in Aries and a fire sign, which is masculine. Uranus is moving into Gemini, which is an air sign that's masculine, and Pluto is moving into Aquarius. So Jupiter is really bringing the balance because water and earth are our feminine signs and where we receive and where we're in the yin energy and where we're in the process oriented and we're on the journey and the healing is sporadic and we understand that like everything is sporadic. So it really is like inviting you to open up to the receptivity. And you can think about like, especially, your Cancer house, but also your Sagittarius house and your Pisces house as places where you're really being invited to soften back and receive. And that's always a good place to look in your chart in general. Like, where are you invited to push forward and take action? Like, where are your planets in masculine energies? And where are you maybe blocking things from the nervous system piece or from the lack of receptivity or from the energetic calibration of opening yourself up to receiving, because those are going to be like your earth and water placements.
Yeah, that's really beautiful and helpful.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking of the charts and the placements and all of that. Okay, amazing. Very nice to have that energy come in this moment where I think a lot of us are desiring an exhale, desiring a little softness, desiring a little luxury and love and support and ease and play too. Like, I really do think
Mhm.
there's a beautiful opportunity both within Cancer and Leo in different ways to play.
Mhm.
Like, Cancer
Yeah.
is like a soft roll in the grass kind of dive in the sea play. And then Leo, I just really always think of as really playful, creative
Mhm.
energy. And so we'll have those two signs, supporting us through the first 2 months of summer. And that's going to be fun, I think. I'm excited. I'm excited for a little play and ease and a little exhale because, yeah,
Yeah.
as you've said, the first part of this year was just like this holding pattern of like, what is happening? I have all this stuff I want to move toward, and just it's not happening.
Yeah.
Everyone has been like waiting for the things that they feel in their sphere that are just not yet landing. So opening to have some of those things land.
Yeah. It definitely had some struggle bus energy. And I feel like too, like one of the other things I wanted to mention is we have a Cancer new moon coming up this month on June 25th. And that always feels kind of like the juiciest new moon because Cancer rules the moon. Like it's like a moon, it's moon on moon energy, you know? But with Jupiter in Cancer as well, there's like a real opportunity to kind of capitalize on this new moon energy and like make some real juicy wishes and kind of reset your moment for inner belonging and your home frequency and your kind of resourcedness and your nourishedness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely make like I mean, I guess I make wishes most moons, but not always. This is one I would definitely sit down and like pen to paper some things or create a ritual that feels really cozy around it.
Beautiful. Yes, I love that invitation, and I love that mention of the moon, and that feels really good. I can feel that energy, and it's really really cozy and soft and like grounded in that softness.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you want to touch on? I feel like as we've gone through, you really have spoke to a lot of my questions just naturally. But is there anything else, anything for people to look out for, anything that we
I
haven't?
mean, I like we talked about it just in its relationship to everything, but Uranus is moving into Gemini on July 7th, so that's another one of the big dates for our Uranus preview. And like I said, all these planets will back out and then come back in 2026, but um it like part of it is really a hard lean into that um into earth and water energy when you're starting to feel like a mental burnout or information overload or introspection burnout, or you're feeling reactive or dysregulated, or you're getting too lost in ideas but you're not in embodiment, because both of these planets being in air signs is going to be a lot, which is why tools for regulating the nervous system, mindfulness tools, breath work tools with Uranus and Gemini, um like creating boundaries around media and social media and screen time and all of those kinds of things. And like being curious, but like just not abandoning your body. That's going to be like so important, is like the embodiment practices during this time,
Yeah.
during these, this next decade or so. And then there's a sweet little Kazemi on July 31st that I wrote down. That's Mercury's Kazemi in Leo. And that's like Mercury Kazemi is a lot because the sun and Mercury move together. A Kazemi basically means, for those who don't know, that the planet is in the king seat of the sun. So it's like the sun and the planet meet, whether it's Mercury or, Venus or some of these planets that kind of travel closely with the sun, or the sun's traveling around and just hits one of them because it moves pretty quick. A Mercury Kazemi always feels like particularly juicy because it's like Mercury is tied to like little insights coming through and messages and channels and downloads. And that might be that you see signs in your environment, or that you like get a download while you're in the shower, or whatever, however your things are. Like we typically get some like clarity or insight around our authentic expression and expansion when it's Mercury and the sun both involved. So it's always a good one. And we want to like make space for that stuff to come through, you know, in our day, especially around July 31st. Like, it's a great time to journal and just kind of like free write and see what comes through. And also a good time to like ask your guides or like whatever you believe. Ask for signs, ask for input, ask for to be pointed in the right direction, because it's not just a Mercury cazimi, it's in Leo, which is the sun's home sign. So it's like kind of doubled down on the juicy possibility energy. So that's the last one I would say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. I'm a Mercury lover.
That's a good one.
Fun energy. And I feel like Mercury and the sun do have a nice like synergy in some way. So that feels cool. Okay, amazing to look out for that. Yeah, I feel like we have touched on so many pieces and so many good things. Oh, the one question that did come up is how does Uranus do in Gemini? Like, what is that kind of energetic signature? Or what are some things that we can look for? Like, I'm curious about that. That feels also a little bit different. Like, what is their relationship?
It feels a lot to me like similar Pluto and Aquarius energy. Although Pluto has like that deeper depth, I think that's where a lot of the secrets coming up are going to come from, and like disclosure is going to come from Pluto and Aquarius. But Aquarius and Gemini are both very airy signs, and you know, they both are connected to kind of this collective energy and this like innovative energy. And so Uranus and Gemini, I mean, Uranus is like zingy, like Pluto is like, let's dig to the depths of the thing. And Uranus is like insights and breakthroughs and surprises and like shaking things up and like rebellion and kind of chaos energy. Sometimes it feels like that, like just pulling the rug out, but then something better will come to replace the thing. But it's kind of a long-term shift in perception, which makes sense for like a new world and a new paradigm that's coming. There might be like around communication stuff, around innovation, around learning, around I'm very curious, like what it's going to like. I keep wondering if the banking system is going to switch, because there's this whole thing that like there's going to be a new banking system rolling out that's going to be better for everybody. And I keep wondering if it's going to happen before, like it makes sense to me that it would happen while Uranus is in Taurus, like while it's still in all the resourced, you know, like Taurus has a lot to do with like our collective resourcing and finances and stuff like that. I would like for that to happen. Like, I'm curious because it's moving so soon. If it's gonna, like, part of me is like, I wonder if it's actually gonna happen when Uranus retrogrades back into Taurus and we're like cleaning stuff up and tying up loose ends and like recalibrating things to really move forward. But my hope is that it happens before July 7th, but we'll see.
That would be fast. I mean, but I've seen, yeah, I'm definitely on the wavelength that is definitely happening. It's really just a matter of when. I also see Gemini being like a good next step for that, right? Like with the potential of like Gemini is such a network, it's such a communicator, it's such a like, and that Uranus energy of like fast, let's go. Like I think that is the banking system we're moving into. So yes, the collective resourcing of Taurus, and then like Gemini is sort of like, okay, here's the system, here's the network, here's like the thing, here's all the dots coming together. So that makes sense. That's really hitting for me of that.
Yeah. I've been like, it could go either way. And I can see both, but like I said, I'm really hoping it's like sooner than later. Like I'm ready for things to like start moving forward, you know?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of questions, a lot of curiosities, a lot of moving parts. And I think that everything that you've really covered just comes back to resourcing the self in a really true way, having this balance of ease and effort, and really tuning into our own needs, our own selves. How can we really give ourselves what we need. How can we really resource the self in these moments with the energetic work, with the nervous system work, with being in our bodies as a lot of that air and fire energy are activated, are around us, which I thrive in that energy. So I'm actually personally excited to be like in that space. And it's really easy to, as you said, like get up in this headspace and not be here on earth. And it's always that balance of like being in the body, being in the self, really cultivating all of these things that are somewhat at odds. And I think that that is what it is to be human. And especially in this moment where we have so much information, so many conflicting views and ideas, and a lot of confusion ultimately to some extent. And I hope that as we move toward more and more clarity, we can stay grounded in our bodies, well resourced, aware, open, all of the things. So, thank you so much for this beautiful cosmic weather report. And it feels really helpful for me to kind of have this in my mind's eye as we're moving through the next few months and maybe feeling a lot of these different impacts and things. And we can come back, listen to this, remember, okay, this is what's happening to give us that context. And then we can go and do practices, look at our charts, see what's happening. So it's really useful and I'm super grateful. Is
Thanks
there
so much for
anything
having me.
else you want to add, or you're feeling, it feels like
No, I
we
think that was
checked
perfect.
the boxes. We completed it. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Amanda. And I will have all of Amanda's info if you want to tap into all of her resources. She's got nervous system work, readings, a huge platform with just incredible insight and so much information to really see where these transits are for you to really understand yourself and your chart more and your human design and all of the pieces. She does an amazing fusion that is just really powerful for someone who wants to know themselves from that perspective on a deeper way. So, all of that will be linked. And thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay.